What's up, my fellow fixers, and in today's video we're going to be revisiting this heavily corroded Game Boy Advance that we were looking at a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't already seen that video, I'll put a link to it up in the top here. So I've just recently received all the parts that I should hopefully need to get this Game Boy fixed, including a new digital microscope which we're going to be using today for the first time to do some proper diagnosis. So I've also got a video for that up in the top description as well. So without further ado, let's get stuck into it and see if we can get it fixed. My name is Scott, and you're watching Scott Fix. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of a recap of where we got to last time. So obviously we have one of our battery terminals, the positive, which is broken off. We concluded that our switch was completely destroyed, so we're going to be replacing that as well at some point, as well as this battery terminal. There is a lot of corrosion still in this game cart slot. So basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking this off as well and giving this a good clean underneath. We've got still quite a bit of corrosion over here in the headphone jack, so I think I'll probably take that off as well. We also have got the trigger button up here, which isn't working. It's just not pressing down the same as the one on the other side, so that's going to be replaced. And we also got to the point where we noticed that there was several capacitors around here which we weren't getting any continuity reading on ground, which I think that might have something to do with the fact that there is either potentially some broken traces or we've got some corrosion in some of these vias. Now obviously I gave this a really good, well, I thought I gave it a really good clean with the toothbrush and some vinegar last time, but obviously, as you can appreciate, looking at this with your naked eye and that lot, you think you got most of it off, but I've got a feeling that there's still quite a little bit of corrosion that we haven't actually seen yet. So what I'm going to do is I'll start with the simple things that I was going to do. I'll get this switch off, I'll take off this cart, take off this headphone jack, and then we'll get this underneath the microscope, and then we'll have a proper look and see what sort of real damage we're looking at. So this is going to be fun because I've not done any of these things before, so nerve-wracking, but at the same time it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good bit of experience. So without further ado, what I'll do is I'll stop talking there to bore you, and I'll just start doing the bits that I said, stick a little bit of music on, kick back and relax, and I'll see you soon. Well, one other thing I did want to tell you, I wanted to show you my brand new tool. This is my friend BA, because he's my solder sucker. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. So I've had a quick change of mind. I'm actually going to do all that work that I said under the microscope because it just looks amazing. I think I can honestly say that was one of the worst experiences in my life to date. Now, the footage you've just seen for the last however many seconds I edited it down to was a combination of the last 2 hours of my life trying to get this goddamn game cart off the board. No matter what I did, I could not get it off. At one point, I'd actually bent the board a little bit, and it had a bow in it. It's just, I can't even begin to articulate just how frustrating that entire experience was. I mean, I had my soldering iron on. Well, I think first of all, I had the wrong tip. I don't think I had my soldering iron hot enough. So then I changed the tip, got it hotter. Then I switched over to my hot air station, which I don't know what the hell was going on there, but it just seemed to be making these tiny little balls of solder that were just flying off all over the board and sticking to components. I just could not get the solder to melt. I reflowed it with leaded solder. I added loads more flux. I was able to drain most of the solder out of the ports, but not enough for it to loosen the pins. And in all honesty, guys, I was literally like, I'm going to scrap this. This is just done now. There's no point investing any more time in it. I thought, do you know what? I only wanted to take the soldering game cart slot off anyway, just so I could get in there and give it a good clean. But do you know what? Forget about that. I'm leaving it on now. So I've resoldered it back on. I'll just have to manually get in there and try and clean it as best as I can, because that is just too painful to continue. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop for today because I've had enough, but I will come back to this and we'll continue with what we're doing. But for you that are only seeing like a couple of seconds, so for the moment, goodbye. And one other thing I would like to add, BA, you've really let me down and all that, bro. I pay the fool that uses you. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to attach my positive terminal. Just put on a little bit of flux. A little bit of solder. Very nice. And then we're going to move on to the power switch next. Yeah, so basically I just put the switch on and completely forgot to press record. It was clever of me, wasn't it? Right, I definitely am going to just leave it here today because I've had enough. Okay, so it's a brand new day and we're now refreshed and re-energized and ready to continue with this marvelous little project that we're on. So just give a little bit of a recap of where we was at. I've replaced this positive battery terminal. I've put on a new switch. We will not discuss the cartridge slot anymore. I did also attempt to try and take off the headphone jack and had exactly the same problems that I did with the cartridge slot. So shh, let's just move on. So what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to be sticking this back underneath the microscope and I'm going to be trying to give this a much better clean than I did before, because now that I can see with a lot more magnification, there's still quite a lot of corrosion in the vias over here around this area. And we also have this section where these capacitors aren't working. So I'm believing there might be a potential broken trace somewhere, or it just might be a case that the vias are blocked up and the current is not flowing from one side of the board to the other. So what I'm going to do now is going to get us back underneath the microscope and let's give this a proper good clean, and let's try and see if we can figure out why this little section over here is not getting any continuity. All right. Okay, so now we've got the board back under the microscope. We can see we have quite a lot of corrosion in all these little vias over here and all around these components. I mean, yeah, we've got quite a bit of a build up around here and along these chips. So I think one of the things I need to do is, once I've given this a thorough good cleaning, I might have to reflow all the components on the board as well, just to make sure that I've got good contacts everywhere. And then I'm going to need to check continuity between each one of these vias everywhere and try and find out why we're not getting continuity around this section of the board. And you can see here the LCD connector here. There's quite a lot of, quite a lot inside there. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack on there and try and give this a super duper clean, and then I'll come back to you once we can move on to the next steps. Okay, so I've been checking some of the traces, and I've just noticed above the CPU I have a little section around here. So if I just go over here and in continuity mode, we're checking for our beeps, which is okay here, 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 here. And then when we get to this one, no, not this one. That one's it, it's this one here. So this one, nothing. So I think we have a broken trace, and it's on the next one as well. That one's okay. And this one, and I believe this one as well. So I think we have 4. Yeah, we have 4 broken traces. So I'm now going to be doing my very first trace repair. So this is going to be fun. Ah, dear. I'm not nervous, not at all. It's going to be easy. So we're going to scrape back and expose some of the copper underneath. So you should be able to see. Bounce our break is. I'll zoom in a little bit more on this one. Way too much flux. too much, folks. Okay, let's just check our continuity. Hey, we fixed the trays. My first trays. La 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 la. Oh my god, this thing's so bloody small. Look. Look how small it is. Next one. Okay, that'll do. Why make it complicated with a wire when I can just bridge it? Let's see if that's done it. No, not that one. That one it has. That one is a no. Let's try again. Okay, now we have continuity. Now I completely appreciate that is a horrendous job that I've done there, but it is my first time, and you know what? I got one little wire, a few little joins on some solder there. You know what? I'm happy with that. That'll do. Right, now let's continue the testing and see what else we can find. Okay, so I've basically gone over every single wire on this board and checked continuity, and I cannot find anything wrong whatsoever. But one thing I have just noticed, you can see down here, let me try and angle that. When I was trying to get this game cart slot off before, and I was using my hot air gun, and little tiny beads of solder were forming and blowing around on the board, or say if you look inside here, you can see we've got loads of little solder balls that are now bridging these connections. So I'm going to run my iron over these and try and sort these out, and then after that I cannot find anything else wrong with the board, so I'm going to put it back together and give it a try and see what happens. So let's get this little issue sorted out. Okay, so I'm just going to recheck the continuity on that and we'll go from there. Perfect. Okay. Right, moment of truth. Let's stick this bad boy back together. Okie smoky. I can't say I'm feeling overly confident about this, but you know. So the bit that you lot haven't realised so far, I've been working on this Game Boy now for, I don't know, the last week and a half maybe. I've probably put, I'd say around about 7 hours of my time into this so far. So if this doesn't work now, I think I'll be quite happy just to chuck it in the bin. Let's just see. Okay, batteries. Our power switch is in the on position, I believe. I can't reach in there. Yeah, it's in the on position. Nothing. Right, okay, so I guess the only other thing that I could try and do is reflow all the components on the board. I just can't leave this soldering thing alone. I'm going to try and reflow some of these. Okay, so I've just reflowed this chip and I was checking for continuity around it just to make sure that I hadn't missed anything, and it looks like I actually had. When I was checking along the side here with this capacitor, which is supposed to go over to this via, which is not, which connects over to this pin on this chip, we see we have no continuity. We check down here, these ones are fine, these ones are all fine. This one, nothing. And also I noticed as well that coming out of this chip, we're supposed to be going into this via over here, and again, nothing. So we have ourselves a little bit of a problem over on this side. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run myself a little jumper wire from this capacitor over to this pin. I'm not sure if I can just run a jumper wire from this one over to this via, because I'm not sure if it's going to make continuity all the way through. But I'll tackle this one first and then I'll try and figure out what I'm going to do over here. That is a bit of a horrendous job. I appreciate that, but we have continuity. Are we bridging over here? Oh, get the right one. Come on. Okay, so we're not bridging between any of these pins. That one is going to there now. Okay, right, now we need to try and sort out the next one, which is our little friend from here to here. So let's just see if there's any way we can scrape that back a bit, and maybe we can bridge over with a bit of solder rather than trying to run another bit of stupidly fiddly wire. No, that didn't work. I don't think there's anything there for it to actually connect to. I think it's quite rotten inside there. Let's see if we can try and scrape out a bit more. Okay, so I've just flipped my board over, and that there should be coming out just down here. Now the plot thickens even more, because when I trace this one up, a little bit of fur on there. When I trace this one up, it's supposed to go to this test point over here, which it doesn't. So we have another broken trace over here. So if we get from here to from here to here, we have continuity, but from here to here, we don't. And this trace then runs all the way down, and I believe it then comes out, I think it was this one right here. So, in order for me to get continuity coming from that chip pin coming out, I ideally probably want to run it up to this test point here, and then that should hopefully then send it through over to this veer over here. That's the theory behind it. So what I'm going to try and do now is I'm just going to scrape this back a little bit and just see if I can get continuity from this test point over to... Actually, no, I'll just check continuity first of all, can't I? This test point down to here. We are getting continuity, which is brilliant. Right, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a jumper wire through this port here onto this test pad. So we're going to bypass this whole section altogether. That's the plan. Let's see if we can actually make it work. Right, so I'm going to flip the board back over. I'm going to attach the wire to the chip and then feed it back through on this side. Sometimes I think half the battle of all this is just having the right kind of tools. I just don't think I've got very good soldering tips. I mean, I am using a cheap iron, so this is probably where this now comes back and bites me in the arse. Alright, let's flip this over now. Right, so I've just checked the continuity between this little wire that I've done here round to the other side over this bit here, and we are getting continuity, which is fantastic. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to try and put this back together now and just see if that's made any kind of difference. So let's make sure, where is our switch? Our switch is in the on position, so let's make sure it's off. Stick in some batteries. Okay, boys and girls, wish me luck. Get the switch on. I hate you. I hate you with all of my being. And the switch is definitely on. Yeah. Okay, right. Trying to decide how much more I should give this. I'm going to go back under the microscope for a little bit more, and yes. Okay, guys, so I've gone back over the board, checking for continuity. I've even tried putting some power into the onto the terminals themselves, and trying to chase the current all the way around and check it against all the components. And with a heavy heart, I'm going to have to say, I don't know what is wrong with this to try and fix it. I've tried everything I can. I mean, obviously, bearing in mind, I am a complete novice at this, and this is the first time I've tried to do something this complex. I think I've given it a good go. I mean, obviously, we've had some quite fun experience trying to do some trace repairs and that lot, and it's been a bit of a mess, but it's all part of the learning process. But yeah, for the sake of my sanity, I think I'm going to call this one a day, because I have literally spent over 10 hours on this Game Boy now across the last couple of weeks, and this is actually now stopping me from getting any other content out of my channel, because I'm trying to get this one done. I really want to try and get a win, but you know, in life you can't win them all. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put this one to bed. Unfortunately, this one will not be relived by me to go back out into the world, but that's fine. We're going to move on, and hopefully in the next video we're going to get some good luck again. Thanks again for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. Take it easy.